Welcome back. On this episode, we're going to talk about some of the pitfalls of relationships. When I was in high school, I got this picture in my mind, probably from the things that I watched, that if you didn't have a relationship or if you weren't in a relationship, then you were a failure, a loser, something along those lines. I built this idea that you had to have somebody in order to have real meaning and purpose and success in your life. And that idea was further entrenched by the things that I watched, the television shows and the movies and things of that nature. It gave me this kind of false image of what a relationship really was. And because I had this false image and because I felt like I had to be in a relationship, the times when I was in a relationship, I wasn't really paying attention, I guess. My eyes were not open. I wasn't seeing the red flags. And then in some cases, I was purposely looking past or avoiding those red flags, which is not a really good thing, and it made me miserable. So it wasn't until I really came to know Jesus in a greater way, I started to have my testimony, started to draw closer to Him, that I went without dating for a long time, about 7 or 8 years. And during that time, my eyes started to get open to the fact that my past relationships were not good and they weren't healthy. But again, I didn't see them in the moment. And then as I described in a previous video, when my wife and I shared our testimony, we started dating, we broke up, and then a few years later we got back together, and then eventually we got married. But that first time that we dated, we went through this book that actually Jane's mom had gone through, and she made these extensive notes, and it was called How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk by John Van Epp. And it is really good, and I kind of want to take some time over a few videos and highlight some of the things that we found in this, because it really, again, it was eye-opening to some of the things that we needed to work on, but also things that I didn't do so well in the past. So I feel like even though I'm not an expert, I have experienced a few of these things myself. And so I want to start by just sharing these 5 basic things that really can be a predictor of happiness if you were to eventually marry this person. So the first one is compatibility potential. And this seems like an obvious one, but again, it wasn't something that I really thought of and I wasn't really looking into. In fact, I would avoid these sort of things because if I saw that there was a problem, then maybe I should not be dating that person. And I would rather be miserable than be alone. And that is not really, it's not a good recipe for a relationship. But as far as compatibility potential goes, how do you fit together? Where are you similar? Where are you different? Are there differences in your personalities? Trying to see and understand these things to see if you can really fit together. The second one is one that probably I am the worst at, or definitely was the worst at, and that is relationship skills. So are you able to communicate with this person? Are they able to communicate? Can you be open? Can you be vulnerable? Can you be truthful? Are you trustworthy? And with that, how do you deal with conflict? Not just the other person, but you as well. How do you manage it? And how do you solve problems? I've seen in other people, especially where one person, when something is going wrong, they want to fix it immediately. And then the other, they're kind of the opposite. They need some space, they need some time, they need to think about it. And so if you have these two very opposing views and they're clashing together, that can cause a lot of friction and conflict. And so how would you resolve that? What are your relationship skills? Number 3 is, what are your patterns in past relationships, both romantic and non-romantic? And again, you're trying to gauge not just where you are, but you're trying to see the other person and really look into some of their habits of behavior. Because if they treated someone else kind of bad, then there is a good chance they might do the same thing to you. And that could be not just someone that they're dating or have dated in the past, but even just friends and how they interact with them on a daily basis. And then kind of going along that same line is number 4 is family patterns. And this one is actually really, really important. And this was super eye-opening to me because when we went through this, Jane and I went through this, a lot of these things, I didn't know anything about myself. I had never stopped and asked some of these questions, which is probably why I got myself into some bad relationships, and I didn't think too much about it, I guess, other than I wasn't very happy. And so trying to understand what has happened in your home, what has happened in their home, and it's not about, you're not trying to speak badly about your family or anything like that. You're just noting some of the things that happened in your family background, your family upbringing, that has made an impact on you. Because that is really big. It'll impact the way you expect or have expectations on a relationship because it's what you've seen, and they might have seen something different. And so it's really good to kind of have an understanding of that if you're going to go any deeper into your relationship. The fifth one is character and conscious traits. So here you're looking at someone's emotional health, you're looking at their maturity. This is really important because how is someone going to deal with the stresses of life? How do they handle responsibility? Do they embrace responsibility? Do they run from it? Are they able to make a commitment, a covenant? If they can't do some of these things, then that is not someone who is going to be healthy for you. They're not going to make you happy. You're going to find that you're miserable. And it's really, really important to be intentional in all of these things. Don't just let these things slide by. You need to understand them so that you don't make that decision that will potentially be life impacting. If you are moving towards marriage, that's one of the biggest decisions other than making a baptismal covenant with Jesus Christ that you're ever going to make in your life. And so make sure you're praying about this. This is probably the most important thing of all of what we have discussed and all that we will discuss is pray. You need to have the Lord with you to see truly into another person and if they are the best fit for you. So next time, we're going to talk about how sometimes when we get into a relationship, and we might get into a relationship that either is not good for us or maybe it's the wrong person or what have you, how we can accelerate that, and that is not good. Sometimes we accelerate the pace of the relationship, and so we're going to talk about how we might intentionally slow that down in order to build the right kind of relationship before we move towards that goal of perhaps marriage. So until next time, this is Andrew King, your fellow brother and companion in this journey we call life.
Proclaim the glory of the Lord. Let